Welcome back to Adobe Live. Happy Tuesday. It's so good to see you all again. Today we are being joined by Chris Blackstock once again. This is day 2 of character design. It's good to have you back, Chris. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Awesome.
Yeah, excited to finish up this wildlife biologist.
And, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, super excited. I had a lot of fun yesterday. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you all for joining, everyone. It's so good to see you all. Wade, Bruce, hello. Annika, Steve, Randall, hello. George, everyone. Oh my gosh, so many people in chat right now. Steve. Oh, I already said hi to Steve. Hi, Steve, twice. Sean, hello. All right, you guys. Well, if you missed day 1, don't forget to check out that link. You can scroll down below and check out day 1 as well. Yesterday, Chris was sketching this awesome alien biologist, which we are going to be continuing to work on today. And also, don't forget to check out the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, which is being hosted by Voodoo Val. And that was shown right before us. And then after us today is the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge being hosted by Codi, if you want to check that out as well. And also, if you are over on the YouTube chat, you can come over to Behance because that is our main chat. We can answer your questions and just hang out with you at behance.net/Adobe Live. All right, Chris, if you would like to show us your portfolio and maybe give us a little intro to who you are and what we'll be working on today.
Yeah, as I said yesterday, I'm an illustrator, concept artist, living in Los Angeles, California. Let me see, pull up my Instagram here. I do everything from character design to I've worked on theme park rides, doing concept art and kind of coming up with new ideas for teams with like Disney Imagineering. Done stuff for Skrillex and a lot of electronic producers, developing album covers, posters, web design, live visuals. So yeah, here's some of the work that I've done. Oh my God, I gotta do the zoom in again. Hold on, guys, sorry.
The lighting on this piece is so gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope I always make sure I'm hoping I'm getting these names right. This was actually from a course with Joel Santana on Domestika, which is, I think it's either Portuguese or Spanish based online learning. And so he's really good with lighting. And so I kind of took that course and made this little guy in the middle, and then eventually I expanded it and did a whole scene. So this was a really cool piece for me as far as pushing my texture and colors. This is that comic book I was telling you guys I've been working on.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah, that's kind of like the preliminary cover and then the first 3 chapters, but hopefully that'll be done. Yeah, here's just some design work. Like I said, I also do album covers that are usually pretty silly, but yeah, all kinds of stuff. Even did some paper toys in the past. So all kinds of stuff. Yeah, and you guys can check out my website as well as at theblackstock.com. But yeah.
Awesome. Your work is so lovely. You say you struggle with color, but I don't see it. I think your color is awesome.
I think it's more that I don't see color until it's on the page. Like I can't, like in my head, I'm not usually like, oh yeah, all these, I'm just like, okay. And then I got to put it there like that doesn't work. That works. Yeah. Yes. I'm going to go with that. So yeah, it's like I said, it's something I didn't touch for probably the first 20 years of my life, really. And then I think once going into art school, they force you pretty quickly to think about that. So yeah. Well, cool. So yeah, today, let's see, I'm gonna just catch you guys up really quick. Gosh, I hope I might have deleted the other sketch. I'm sorry. Let me see. Let me see if I can find the old sketch. Give me a second. I might have saved it on a different file here. There he is. Okay. So this is kind of around where we ended. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but let's see if I've got the other one here. Gosh, it might be all behind it. Where are you?
Layer hunting once again.
I know. Okay, I'll go ahead and just explain it. So you can kind of compare them to these two. The one on the right was the original sketch. And when I started looking at it, I kind of noticed that his arms were he had little gator arms, and his legs were a little too big. And so I went over here. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I basically shortened the legs. And I made these bigger, made the arms bigger. And so that helped kind of balance that a little bit better now. I mean, you can kind of see the line really kind of shrunk it up. And so I really like this design a lot better. And so I went ahead with that, and then did a nice kind of and I messed with the gecko as well and made some better line work, shrunk him a little bit more. But yeah, so then I just went in with the final line and got that laid out. Fixed his cape a little bit, added, oops, sorry about that. Just make a notes layer. It's easy. Went ahead and added a hood right there. Because I started to think, I was like, oh, it'd be really cool is this. He kind of had like a stealth mode.
Oh, yeah.
He's got this big backpack here, and that's kind of like that's the laboratory. That's like he's slow moving, he's collecting samples. This is more of like the workhorse. But when he's kind of in this mode, which I might even add a shrink ray, I was thinking.
Oh.
Like possibly here, because I was like, oh, it'd be great if this was kind of his, like this cloak could be camouflage. Like it could be like similar to like the gecko or the chameleon. It could he can put that hoodie on, and all of a sudden now, you've got like this, he's kind of draped down, and he can kind of like sit down and like watch the animals. And then to study or take back to his laboratory, he could shrink them down with his, shrink right here. And then he can take them back, do tests and stuff. And then he can grow them large again, and they'll be just fine.
I love all the backstory. It's so much fun.
Yeah. So I thought that would be kind of fun. But yeah, for right now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this one just because I did want to finish the line work on it. Hopefully it won't take me too long. But I went ahead and let me go ahead and darken that a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. I went ahead and kind of worked out a few of these things. So I kept the compass down there. I kind of got rid of some of these other things because it got a little bit busy. But I got his shovel saw, and then I've kind of got his different things that he might need with his oxygen and water. And he can have this tube that he can kind of move back and forth if he wants to. These guys right here. And this can kind of extend down.
Oh, that's really cool. That's such a cool design. Wow.
Yeah, and they got these little switches and stuff. You've got your fill meter of how much is left in there. And you can kind of pop these out. These are kind of like tubes that you can just pop them in, pop them out. And then added the kazoo.
The kazoo.
The kazoo.
Suggested by
kazoo,
chat.
Kazoo. Yeah, good job. So will definitely be the serenading instrument. And then I'm gonna go ahead and finish that compass, and then we've got his kind of GPS device, and then I figured he probably needs it needs to be like a little bit of a rocket pack.
Oh yeah,
for traveling. So we got one of the little exhausts right there, little propulsion thing. I don't know what to call that. And then this big bag of bloated liquid is probably some kind of, it's something to test, probably to like test water or something that's either drinkable or toxic.
Science.
And he's got his pack on the back, and then kind of fixed up his arms. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and kind of try to finish this up real quick, and then we can move on to blocking in color. And then I think I'm going to start, I've already started some expressions and some little moments. So then we'll move on to that and hopefully finish with that stuff. So
awesome. Wow. You've made a lot of progress since we saw it yesterday. It looks so cool. I think one of my favorite parts is the fact that you added a monocle and then put a wire attached to his headpiece there. That is so cool.
Yeah, because we were talking about kind of like the binoculars, and then someone had suggested the monocle, and I was like, oh, it's perfect. Because when I had that thing on his ear, I felt like it could have been this like really cool hearing aid to like hear the animals, like tune into different frequencies. And I was like, oh, that'd be perfect. It could totally be that. And it could be, it could just adjust, like he could study all kinds of things through this kind of like AR monocle that floats around, And so with the expressions, when we do the expressions, that monocle will kind of it'll be part of those expressions, right? So it can be like flying off his face, but it's definitely floating. Like that's not sitting on his face at all.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So. Even that, I kind of like going back to the conversation that we had yesterday about how you can add a lot of personality with facial hair and mustache. You can definitely add personality with that monocle there too, and expression. That's really neat.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's always good to have those kinds of elements when designing a character. And because you're also, it's like there's all those like, basic things that you're going to need, just, basic facial structures and things that people are going to recognize right away. But you really want to set your designs apart somehow with like little things that when they're put into whatever environment they're in, or, whether that's a children's book or a film or a comic, they need to have acting tools as well that are just a part of their character, because you can only do so much with facial expression. They need to have other elements that are going to kind of introduce like funnier ways to do things, or maybe even more subtle ways to kind of tell some of the storyline without being so obvious. So
yeah, absolutely. Just wanted to say hey to a few more people in chat. Hi, Juan, James, Kevin, Aaron. Welcome in, you guys. Stony, hi, Aaron. Welcome. Oh, I also wanted to let you guys know as well, I forgot to mention it in the intro, we are going to be doing an artist spotlight the last half hour of this stream. So don't forget to hang out until we get to there. And as well as if you would like to suggest anyone or yourself, you can go to the tab above the chat, the artist spotlight tab right next to the info tab, and you can fill out the form there. Juan is asking, are you drawing with a Wacom or an iPad?
I'm drawing on a 24-inch Cintiq Pro. So nice giant screen.
Yeah.
It weighs like 40 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
I used to work, there we go, sideways. I used to work out of my house a lot. I mean, I still do, but I have a 27-inch iMac. And so I was like working on the dining room table in my house with like my two kids running around.
Oh yeah.
And like be constantly like moving it from my house to I have a studio in Pasadena, and and it was fine with the 13-inch, but when I got this, I was like, okay, this is staying here, and
Yeah.
that's when I got an iPad. I was like, the iPad will be the one that I take home, because I don't think I can move this thing back and forth.
Kevin in chat is saying, man, smoothing on 0%, the control. You have so much line
Oh,
control.
yeah, the only time I really use smoothing is when I'm not on a Cintiq. When I'm on my iPad, I find that it can be a little harder sometimes to get really, and I think because I'm getting so used to these bigger, I'm able to get kind of better motion with this bigger screen. But yeah, I think also too, I'm just not, I don't even know if I really knew it was a feature for a long time. I was like, oh, what is this? And I think it's when I was using, or no, it's when I tried to ink on Photoshop, and I noticed that because I was inking on Clip Studio for a lot of my comic stuff, and I was trying to do more, trying to kind of switch to Photoshop, see if I could do it there, and just noticed that the initial settings for the ink brushes weren't as smooth as Clip Studio. And that's when I started to realize like, oh, okay, you got to add a little bit of the smoothing, and then it worked much, much better. But yeah, I mean, I think just from doing years and years and years of inking with microns and brush pens.
Sure.
I'm just pretty used to it at this point. And there's, I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's something that's nice with doing this, instead of doing this with like a black ink brush, doing it with a pencil brush, your mind just lets it be a little bit messier if it needs to be. Like it's, at least for me, like it's not as precious as it would be for ink for me if I was trying to make this look like an inked piece. So like all those little mistakes or places that isn't as tight as I want it to be actually adds character in the end. So
yeah, that's very true. Those happy accidents that you get when you're doing things by hand, you just add those little jitters, and it just kind of ends up giving it a lot of character.
Yeah, and for me that's good because I'm very detail oriented, and sometimes can get very much lost in that, and then be like, oh my god, I've been spending 3 hours and like I haven't even solved this other problem yet. It's like, what am I doing? So okay, getting further along here.
Aaron in chat is asking, what advice would you give to someone who has a studio arts degree but wants to get into character and concept art as a career but lacks experience?
For me, I just started doing it. I dropped out of school after going for 4 years. So not only do I have student debt, but I also don't have a degree.
Oh man.
But I just kept going, and I think the importance of art school for me, I mean, I did go for 4 years. I did do a lot of studying. I met a lot of people. Some of my best friends I met in art school. That was the networking part, which is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Without a network, it's pretty much near impossible to crack into the industry unless you are like part of that 1% that is just unbelievable, and you got this huge presence online. Otherwise, I would try to find a group or people that are continuing their education, whether that be through figure drawing or doing smaller classes or something. That's a good way to kind of start getting into it, because then you can start meeting other like-minded people. If you start going to conventions or like the Lightbox Expo or other things where it's really based on furthering your education and learning, it's worth investing a little bit of money to go to those things and kind of see where other people are at skill wise, and you can watch people draw, you can do it. So those are little things you can do. And then beyond that, one thing that it's pretty much for anything you want to add to your portfolio, is you need to create your own project and then pretend that somebody had hired you to make it. And then you need to set deadlines and goals, and you need to make the project to the best of your ability. Mm-hmm. And so every time that you do that, every project that you do, you're going to get better and better. There's a lot of resources online with, like I said, Domestika, Udemy, I think Class 101, mm-hmm. Patreons. Schoolism is an amazing educational resource. It costs money, but you're talking about some of the best artists in the world doing these classes. So I know ArtStation is now doing learning classes, but yeah, I think the best thing is like really pretend and like believe in your head that like you're doing this. And so you're going to look at other people's portfolios or maybe art books. Like I just told you, I got that Luca art book.
Oh yeah.
And you can just kind of see like, okay, what kind of work would I need to do? It's okay, I need to do these like initial sketches. I need to do color studies. I need to do expression sheets, turnarounds, props, like all these things that you're going to see in a movie. You kind of have to start dabbling in all those things. And yeah, it's hard. I'm still, very much trying to work more and more and get myself in a position where I can get more freelance work doing that. But it's not easy. There's a lot of talented people out there, and you kind of just have to not give up and just work as hard as you can on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no real easy way to get a job, especially with character design is a very oversaturated, heavily desired position. So yeah, just a lot of work and passion. And honestly, you only fail if you give up. So mm-hmm. It's one of those things where you just kind of have to keep going, especially if you love it. It shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah, I think that's some really great advice. Doing, I think, passion projects to help fill your portfolio. Like I know a lot of children's illustrators that will do their own version of a book cover, for instance.
Oh yeah, that's great.
And they'll do a mock-up of it as a passion project, and they'll stick it in their portfolio because that's the kind of work that they want to get hired for. And it helps like publishers or any clients, for instance, to be able to physically see, okay, this person is capable of doing this thing. And mock-ups I think are really important, especially, depending of course on what kind of work you want to get into, but it helps non-creatives be able to see your work on a product too. Like if you're getting into surface design or pattern design, or if you want to work in publishing in magazines, you can do mock-ups in magazines or t-shirts or anything like that. It just helps so much, I've heard, to get hired that way. Even if you had the same artwork in your portfolio without a mock-up, you're much more likely to get hired if you have it on a mock-up. So keep that in mind too, you guys.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. Make the art for your portfolio that you want to be hired to make.
Yeah.
Like I think it's hard because there's also a point where it's like if you aren't at that professional level and you're still learning, then no, you should be making all kinds of art, and you should really be exploring your skill set and developing it. But if you're pretty close and you're there and you've kind of got the skill base, then you really just want to be putting the stuff in your portfolio that you want to get hired for. You got to put that out there, because then they're going to see, most people that are hiring, they're going to look to see if you can make the art that they want to make.
Yeah.
And then if they see it, they're like, oh, he or she, they can already do this style. Perfect. Like, that's great. Like, we can hire them. Otherwise it'd be like, I don't know. They're great artists, but can they do the style that we want? Maybe. So that's kind of the quicker way or the easier way to kind of develop. But there's no easy answer, and everybody's journey is very different.
Yeah.
So that is also very true. I think I was on here last month with Anna was
Mhm.
hosting, and we were talking about the Negative Space podcast with
Yes.
James Castillo, Maxi Lichny, and Nicholas Cole. And that's, I think, especially for aspiring concept artists and character artists, it's a great podcast that they've started. And they go over a lot of things and struggles and kind of experiences within that industry. So it's a nice little insight. It's a good podcast. They're funny dudes. And so I think that's definitely one, if you're interested at all in that industry, definitely check out.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay. What's this guy doing? Do little specs and
Add some texture.
Yeah, some body damage. Little things here and there.
And don't forget, everyone, if you are over on the Adobe chat, to come on over to Behance, because that is our main chat, and we'll be able to answer any questions or comments that you have. And if you can just go to behance.net/Adobe Live, and we will be able to see your comments.
Okay. I think those are pretty good. Let's take a look. Pretty cool. Okay. And the little breathing juice tube.
Juice tube, yes.
Yeah. He's got to have some juice, right? I mean, water is great, but
yes,
we all love juice.
We were saying yesterday that his pack looked like a juice box, so
it's yeah, maybe it's a little juice box there. Perfect. This is like a quick tip that I'm sure a lot of people know, but if you're newer to withdrawing, especially the inking process, when you're inking stuff like in the background here, you want to try to avoid, and this is stylistically, it's something you can choose or not choose, but for the most part, you don't want to really connect these lines right here, because it unless this is like really a part of your silhouette and it's something that you're choosing to do, what it does is it really flattens out your piece, especially if you're using a lot of line work. So you really want to kind of give it a little bit of breathing room on either side. And that usually to the viewer kind of denotes that it's like, okay, it's being pushed back, it's behind. And so you kind of do that in all these little places here. And that will help just kind of give your lines that are in the foreground some breathing room. And it'll be easier to read for the viewer. So
yeah, that's a really good tip. I've always noticed that artists do that sometimes, but I never actually understood when they do it. So knowing that it's for things in the background to kind of push it back is some really cool advice. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think you see it a ton with comics.
Yeah,
because you're doing so much black work and fill in. You really need to like be smart with your spacing and your white and your negative space. So, but that's something that I just kind of learned over time. And it really does make a difference. I mean, you can just tell it really helps with the separation.
Angela in chat says, I'm sorry I missed yesterday's live stream. Well, we are happy to have you here today. They say, but I want to ask, where do you get your inspiration from?
It's a good question. I mean, it's definitely just over a period of time. I love comic books, love animation, love video games. So that's always a source of inspiration. Specific artists. One that I've been he just announced that he's leaving Insomniac, the studio that makes Ratchet and Clank and stuff. But Dave Guertin, I think Guertin, Guertin, and he's been the character monster designer there for I think over 20 years.
Oh wow! So he did the original series too.
Yeah, I mean he's amazing, and that his style and really how he pushes his designs, huge inspiration. I think he also has a side thing called Lost Bear Studios that I think he does with one other guy, and they put out books as well. But he's pretty incredible. But yeah, I mean, I think I worked at a street art gallery, a lowbrow gallery in San Francisco for a long time. So I was very much influenced by the whole Juxtapose magazine kind of era, from the early 90s to kind of mid 2000. And I got to meet a lot of those guys with like Ron English, Sean Barber, Henry Lewis, just a lot of these like people doing everything in oils, acrylics, spray paint, everything traditional, and really seeing people kind of pour these endless hours into something that is so finite, and you're just going to sell off to somebody and never see again. So a lot of really cool people, hardworking people, and it's just such a different space because it was all gallery work and stuff. So that was another really big influence in my life. So yeah, but just tons of consumption of just entertainment.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if it's my undiagnosed ADHD or whatever, but like I have a hard time working without something on in the background.
Me too.
Like, it's just like white noise almost, but so I'm constantly watching animation or whatever I can kind of find myself interested in. But yeah, I mean, the more you watch, the more you do, the more you read, you're just going to naturally pick up on things that people are doing. Mm-hmm. And then just nowadays with the internet, it's kind of unreal how much access you have. But yeah.
Yeah, I've been going through the new Ratchet and Clank game recently, and I was just
on PS5.
Yeah.
I hate you.
Yeah, we got one.
Oh,
it took a long time, but
can't you like 3D print it or something and give it to the rest of us?
What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I was just saying
that you're better than us.
To my husband that the monster designs in that game are just so unique and so adorable. They have so much character, and they're so unique to that world that especially on a PS5 game, the world just feels so alive now. There's so many creatures just walking around and doing things, but the character design in that series is just so great. It's
pretty incredible that they've been able to keep a consistent look from PlayStation 2 all the way to now over 20 years. With just like how limited that technology was back then and where it is now. Because I mean, obviously, not only is the design great, but the animators over at Insomniac are just unbelievable. When I was 19, a family, I don't know if it was a family friend, I honestly can't remember. I don't know if it's through the school I went to or I can't remember. But this guy named Tom Barlow, I think he works at Jam City now, but he worked at Insomniac for probably about over 20 years as well as an environment designer. I was looking to go to art school, and he had gone to Art Center, and I was just kind of showing him my stuff, my portfolio, and kind of picking his brain. And he was nice enough to invite me to tour Insomniac at the time. So I was 19, so this is 2003. I'm an old man. And so that was really cool. I mean, getting experiences like that really have an impact because you really start to see what those environments are like, what the people there that work there, kind of what these workflows are, and you're just seeing like in one area you've got like the little crew of artists and animators, and then you've got like 100 desks just traveling down where all the programmers are, just like toiling away. And then you got, the sound engineers, and but that really was incredible. Kind of, I got to see them doing some animation, and got to see some, new character designs at the time. They were showing me how they do the environment designs, but it was really cool. And I think since then, it was already one of my favorite franchises, but that kind of left a mark, on me, definitely. It's a great studio. Okay. I meant to have more of this line work done, but I just didn't get to it.
That's all right. So
I'm gonna see how fast I can go without making it bad. Let's see.
Prasad, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Hi, Anthony. Welcome. Good to see you guys.
And I would definitely say, also for aspiring artists and people that kind of want to take their art to the next level, there's really, the thing about art is you can't really cheat the system. Like, you just have to practice endlessly. It really is one of those things where practice makes perfect. Or I guess I shouldn't say perfect, because nothing's perfect, but practice really makes you a master. And you get progress. It's like with art, that's the only thing that's really going to take you there. I mean, you can have imagination, which is great, and ideas and all that stuff, but as far as your skills, you just have to kind of sit and do it. I remember when I was in school, when I got there, I was like, yeah, I'm so good. And, in a few of my classes, I was like, yeah, okay, what's going on? Like, who are all these other people that they could barely draw a human? Like, how are they even paying for art school? And then 4 years later, they're unbelievable, because they're the hardest working people in the class. And you swallow your words because you're like, oh, it's not just talent. I mean, a lot of it really is really just hard work and dedication and discipline.
Yeah. Yeah, I always, especially when I was younger, told myself that I was such a lazy artist because I never practiced ever. I've definitely gotten better. I'm still not an artist that draws every single day, but I have gotten a lot better in terms of my consistency and how often I draw. But I know that I would be leagues above where I am now if I had always consistently drawn all the time. But it's hard.
It's hard, and you do get to a certain point, you kind of just have to choose what's important to you. And I love drawing and I love creating, but there are other important things in my life, and you have to make time for those things. Because I can't tell you how many people I've met, how many artists were that, eventually you get burned out. And some people dedicate everything to the craft, and then at the end of the day, it's like, what else do they have?
Right.
And so the work-life balance is so important in anything you do. But I think with art, especially, you get so caught up in trying to be this idea of what an artist is. And there really is there's no blueprint, it's whatever works for you. The most important thing you want to focus on is you want to establish habits that are going to keep you making art.
Yeah.
If you're doing all these things, but you're just getting burnt out and it's turning into something that you hate, then what's the point? I mean, you kind of lost the whole point of why you did it in the first place. Because if you want to make this a profession, you have to make it sustainable. And I think when you're young, it's really easy to get lost and really overwork yourself when you're really trying to get to that next level, especially if you started a new job or like your first gigs, or if you're doing entertainment. It's really easy to just give everything to that employer, and you slowly learn over time, you're like, I don't need to do that. There definitely can be parameters, and in the end you make better art too. I mean, one, because you're getting more efficient but two, your mental health is better, and so
Yeah.
you're able to process things faster, and to, you kind of forget that you kind of need that space sometimes too.
Yeah, for me, I have always kind of had a tendency of work, 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 and then burn out for like months at a time.
Totally.
And then work, 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 and then burn out. It's just like a vicious cycle that I am still struggling to figure out. It's especially, I think a lot of artists deal with this, like freelancers that work from home. It's kind of hard to have that balance of separating, having boundaries between your home life and your work life, because your home life is your work life. Completely. So like for me, I struggle like setting a time limit or like a work day for myself. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to like convince myself, okay, I need to stop working. It's 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever. You don't need to answer this email right away. But
right.
It's just like, I gotta have that self-discipline, and it definitely helps a lot too. You don't have to answer emails on the weekend. It's okay, Codi. You don't have to do this. Yeah. But I know a lot of artists, including myself, struggle with that.
Oh, completely. And I'm guilty of it. Like I have a hard time not giving everything. Even a project where I'm like, wow, they're paying me a quarter of the money that I should be getting, and like, how much time can I really put into this? And then of course you end up just doing it like you're getting paid $1 million. Mm-hmm. And your significant other is like, what are you doing? It's like, this is my craft.
Yeah.
Don't judge me. It's like, I'd be doing it this way anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is tough. I mean, the same thing. I work from home a lot of the time, because I've got 2 kids. I got a 4.5-year-old and an 18-month-old. So, my wife's also an artist. She's a jewelry maker.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so she's, she works from home as well, and so it's a terrible circle. It can it can be really challenging to try to like figure out how that's gonna work, and like who gets the time to work, and like how, but you kind of just have to, you got to just do it. You got to figure it out, and you got to make time for each other, and you got to make time for your family, and you got to make time for yourself. And you learn, it takes a while, but you learn, you figure it out, because otherwise you're going to be miserable.
Wade in chat says, oh yeah, finding balance is hard but important. Kevin says, I think it's not just about practice, but it's about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone so you can grow. That too. Yeah. You definitely need to like continue to want to push yourself out of your comfort zone, because even just for yourself, your art can sometimes just start to feel stagnant, and like you need a change a little bit. Like for me, like I always go through that. Like after a year or so, I'll change up my texture brushes, like just to change up my artwork a little bit and be like, okay, let's try something new.
I mean, that's exactly what I did. This brush set that I'm using right now, I just started using in the last maybe 4 months or so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's true. Like that's what I was saying, where it's like, if you don't feel like you're at a place where you can kind of do this freely, or teach yourself to do things, it's like you shouldn't really settle with any style yet, or any, because a lot of the people are constantly like, what's my style, or what's it? It's like, yeah, it'll come. You'll see where you kind of start to settle into, but don't do it yet. That's a great thing, is don't do it out of comfort. That's a horrible way to settle into a style or make artwork, because you'll just put yourself in a box. And like I said, unless you are making something that's out of this world and like completely unique, it's like, you don't want to be in that box. You want to make sure there's a door out, or there's windows and stuff. You want to build like a big house, you don't want to be stuck in this tiny little box. So but that is true. You don't want to get too comfortable. You always want to challenge yourself. And that was, I mean, for me, that was the comic book was kind of saying yes to something that I had never done before.
Yeah.
And just kind of trusting myself that I would be able to put in the time and the effort to make it happen. So yeah, definitely, have confidence that you can figure it out. You put in enough time, it'll happen.
Yeah, taking on client projects that are out of your comfort zone and you're just unsure of whether you'll be able to do it or not. I've had a few of those, and most of the time I end up being really proud of myself that I completed it. I'm like, okay, you know what? I should have had more faith in myself to begin with, because, I have the skill, and, but that imposter syndrome is always right there.
Oh yeah.
Making you feel like you can't do it. But I can guarantee you probably most likely can, even if you feel like you can't.
Totally agree. I mean, yeah, that's when I was first doing theme park stuff. That was really intimidating. And they would send me roller coaster engineering designs and be like, can you just like work around this? And like, these are the parameters. I'm like, I've never done this before.
Oh my goodness.
Like, it just completely shocking to me of like how I was going to accomplish this. But like you said, you kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right, let's just pretend that I know what I'm doing. And yeah, I mean, that's fake it till you make it is true. It's so true in so many ways for so many people. All right.
Kevin says also, that's the other thing. You're worth what you can negotiate. Never work for exposure. That's basically giving into exploitation. Yes, please don't ever work for exposure. Happens to a lot of artists.
Yeah, I think, to be fair though, there are certain situations that could change your career. Sure. So I would say, yeah, for the most part, most of those situations aren't that situation. And like doing spec work and other crap, like, unless it's really for something major, you try to avoid that as much as possible. Yeah. But just like anything else, there's no definitive rules. And like, sometimes you got to take a pay cut, or sometimes you got to take a chance on something to get that connection or that network. So always keep it in context. That's the most important part. Yeah. But yeah, for most people, it's just like, can you do this for me? Or like, yeah, I'll post you on my page. Like nowadays with social media, that's basically probably what most people are thinking about. Exactly. As far as exposure, and like, yeah, most of that is BS and not really going to do much for you, honestly.
But yeah, I agree. It's completely circumstantial, with the exception of those people that are like, oh, I'm not going to pay you, but I'm going to post you on my page that has 10 followers, like.
Yeah, I don't. I'm like, oh, people do this? Wait, what?
Yeah. It's an epidemic at this point.
Yeah. Thankfully, I kind of haven't really dealt with much of that. I feel like I kind of missed a lot of that, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't really care, because that's not affecting how I get work. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I think we got one last thing here. Get this guy.
So we talked about what your inspiration is for you now as an adult, but when you were a kid, what was your main inspiration, and what were your favorite hobbies to do as a kid that like kind of like inspired your artwork in any way?
Just trying to think.
What did you love to do as a kid?
I love playing sports. So I love playing sports and video games. I was kind of the kid that was friends with everybody, because I don't know if I was like really outgoing, but I could talk to people. And I loved soccer and football. And my dad bought an Apple computer really early on. I feel like I started playing on one of those when I was maybe like 3 or 4. So that was maybe in like 87, 88. Still remember playing Zelda for the first time when I was probably like 5 years old. And my dad and my brother's 3 years older than me. And we would we would draw our own maps. So each
nice.
new screen we would go to, we would draw a map for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember doing that stuff. And I mean, that's a huge impact on everything. I mean, like I said, I honestly, a lot of that animation and things that I enjoyed as a kid are still the things that influence me today.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just become something so much bigger than they were back then, and so much more impressive nowadays. But so yeah, I don't know. I think, I don't think it's really changed much.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that because sometimes it's like that where nothing's changed for me my entire life. And sometimes artists are like, yeah, I was into completely different things when I was a kid. So I always just love hearing those backstories on how an artist was when they were a kid compared to how they are now.
Yeah. I'm much more confident than I was when I was a kid nowadays, just because I'm older. I'm 37. Mm-hmm. You kind of get to a place where you don't sweat the small stuff anymore unless it's financial. And you just kind of, you start to really realize who you are as a person. And I think having kids too did that a lot for me. Kind of put a lot of priorities, like, oh, okay, I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need to do this. Like, I want to focus on this. And so, okay, I think the line drawing is done now.
Sweet.
Sorry that took so long. Let's see. Cool. All right, yeah, so I think it looks pretty darn good. And now we can go over maybe doing some colors, some basic colors. I kind of did a quick block in. This isn't like the color I'm using. It's just really just using a color to create a silhouette shape that I can use for clipping masks. Okay. And then I usually just use like a hard round. I'll use a what's going on right now? Is this on multiply? It is. Okay. I'll usually use a lasso tool to get the basic shapes. And then I'll come back and just kind of do some cleanup work if I need to. Just make sure there's no big white gaps. Which isn't always a problem. I mean, if the style is like very sketchy and or maybe you're doing kind of like a off registration like they do with like silk screening and stuff, you can kind of have it not exact. But for this I definitely want a nice silhouette shape to work off of.
Do you use this silhouette as a mask for when you add color on top?
Okay. Yeah, so I've got that base. So I'll just show you real quick. So I'll just do the face, and then, oh my gosh, I'm like blanking right now. Isn't it just Control? Yes. So you just hold down, or Alt. I guess I'm on Mac, so it's Alt Option. And you hold it in between the layers, I believe, is when it pops up like that. And then when I go to make this mustache, I can go ahead and just draw that in, and it's not going to go outside of that that silhouette, that shape that I just created. So it's an easy way to you kind of only have to do that work once. Yeah. Which is nice. It's not always, I don't always do it that way. Sometimes I just want to paint and be a little more loose. But I feel like this guy, since I don't have a ton of time to do rendering, I want this to be a much more graphic and flat approach with the color. So this will kind of just make it easier for me. And you can do this part with the lasso as well if you want. Right. I think I'm just so used to doing it excuse me, this way that kind of just default to it. I guess I can show you. So if you just L, quick lasso tool, you can just kind of go in there. I was telling Cody, it is the one thing I do not like on the Cintiq, is it's hard to see your lasso line because your finger is covering it as you're doing it. But yeah, so you can do it that way as well. It can be a lot faster if you know what you're doing. Sometimes it's just a little more fun to just kind of get in there and scribble.
Do you always use a hard round for this, or are you just doing a hard round because you want it to be more of the graphic style?
Yeah, the latter. It just depends. Like sometimes there's really, I know there's some great watercolor Photoshop brushes and like pastels and stuff, and that's a fun way to do it too. Also with this, like let's say I wanted to render this out, I would much rather have create these solid shapes that are really opaque. So then when I go to apply those textures, I can either make selections of these colors or go on top of them, and I've got like a nice flat base that I'm working off of instead of, so, or if I want to cut it out and repaste it or use it as completely separate from the clipping mask. But yeah, I do kind of like the idea of him having this like kind of like really dark tanned skin. Like he's been out there.
Oh yeah, he's had some sun.
Yeah,
definitely.
He's seen a little bit of sun. Let's see what we got.
Anthony in chat is asking, did you ever doodle while you were in class as a kid?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I was a good test taker, so I didn't have to pay attention too much in class. I guess I kind of cheated, but yeah, tons. Like I was constantly drawing just weird stuff. Like if you look at it, I mean, I don't even know if I have any of those notebooks anymore, but yeah, it's like it'd be like notes for like the first 20 minutes of class, and then it would just be filled with like very strange drawings. And I was definitely making much darker art back then. I've lightened my palette and my subject matter as of late. But yeah, definitely a lot more like skulls, and zombies, and
so angsty,
flesh eating bugs, and yeah, very angsty. Okay, let's see what we got.
Wade in chat is saying, man, now I want to see the dark stuff.
It's there. Yeah, gosh, I used to do a lot of sculpture too, with found objects and clay, polymer clay, like Super Sculpey. Yeah, I definitely made some pretty interesting things. Gosh, I'm just trying to it's so different from what I make now, but yeah, it's just, especially a lot of that stuff was for fine art shows and gallery shows. But yeah, I did a whole series on drug dealers and crackheads in the Tenderloin, but done as like found objects, almost like Muppets. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it was pretty interesting.
Do you feel like your subject matter lightened up after you had kids, or was it before that?
Definitely with kids, and I think also just making myself more palatable to more clients.
Sure.
I think some of it had to do with the doing electronic stuff, because that was much more playful and it wasn't as serious. And so a lot of things that I was doing at the time, it was always kind of like a dark humor that I had. It was never like, nothing was usually too serious. But the electronic music, it was always, you wanted everything to be a party, especially with who I was working with like Skrillex and Haywire and Kill Paris and stuff. So that kind of just started to make sense that I would work that way. So, and it was good. That for me, that was getting out of my comfort zone, which for a lot of people might not be, but I didn't know how to make cute things.
Sure.
I knew how to make really grotesque, like ultra detailed things. And so that was kind of started my adventure into, well, I've loved animation for so long and this character designs. It's like, can I do it? I mean, I think I can, but I haven't really practiced this or like really tried to do it. And so I just kind of decided at a certain point where I'm like, I want to do this. And that was not that long ago. I've really only been doing character design for entertainment for the past few years.
Oh, wow.
So it was something that I had been doing in other ways and doing world building and character stuff for other things, but not really focusing it on like, I want to do this for animation, for comics, so yeah, it's been like really great experience, and I've learned so much. And I started doing that like 34, 33. So it's like, don't be afraid to change gears if you want to, Let's see.
So these colors that you're choosing, do you always like stick with the same colors that you start from the beginning, or do you change things up as you go, or do you start with a predetermined color palette, or how does your color process work?
Yeah, usually I just lay colors in that I think are close, or at least in the wheelhouse of like what I want to use, but I'm usually just doing like blocking in shapes.
Yeah.
And then kind of starting to see how they look together. So these probably are not the final colors, but I'm just like, okay, I need to get this in there. I need to do this. I need to do this. Try to like slowly figure out how these are all going to work together. But yeah, that can, I feel like with color, you really want to make sure that you're getting your base colors right. So that you can, so that you're not worrying about it later on. But it's such a thing where it's like I feel like I'm tweaking colors until right before the end, doing final adjustments, contrast, hue, your different levels and stuff. So yeah. And again, for me, it's like, I need to kind of see it all together to kind of make some of those decisions.
Yeah, that's the beauty of clipping masks too, is that you can just throw one color down on one layer, and if you don't like that color, you can just lock the transparency and just go over it with a brand new color. I do that a lot for my work. I use clipping masks a lot, and most of the time I'll just start throwing down colors and they change throughout. I'll just go over it with a huge hard round brush and change the color and just kind of experiment as I go.
Yep. Because I'm never going to get it right out the gate. It's just like sketching, or, you kind of have to see how it all works together. And there's just a lot of fine tuning that happens. I don't really know many people who just put the color in, and then they never touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the anti-painting process.
I wanted to remind you guys that in about 25 minutes, we will have our artist spotlight. And if you would like to nominate yourself or someone else, please feel free to fill out the form above the chat that says artist spotlight. It is the tab directly next to chat and info. So yeah, stick around for that. We got about 25 minutes left.
Okay. So that being said, I'm just going to leave. We can block him in for days or whatever, but I do want to move on from this. I think what I'll probably do is get this stuff finished probably afterwards, and I'll post this because I do want to get to some of the expressions and like little acting moments. But yeah, that's kind of the process of starting to block in colors. And I guess really quick, I'll just show you. So once we have that, I can go ahead and create another layer in that clipping mask. And usually what I'll do, if I'm just doing like a 1-layer shadow, I'll reduce it to around 50% and turn it into a multiply layer. And then I'll usually have like a deep blue, like ultramarine blue or something, or, you know, more towards like a deep violet. And then that can kind of become your shadow, and you can kind of see it here. If that's too heavy, you can always just reduce it. If you want to do like a really light, you know, you can do it that way. And this is going to give you very definitely like a 2D animation, cell shade kind of look, which for this is totally fine. And you can it's super easy to just block in these shadows.
Wow, that immediately gives so much depth. That cool tone shadow adds so much to the palette too.
And the good thing is that, because sometimes I'm like, I really just want to paint these shadows and I don't want it to be on 1 layer, and I'll go in and just be much more painterly with it. But really the cool thing with this is that since you have it on a layer, you can just lock that layer. And if you want it to be these different colors, you can kind of go in. You can, so, you know, it's like if you've got some different changes in either rim lighting, or there's some like bounce light or reflective light or whatever, it's an easy way to go in. You can also do it with like, you know, really soft brush or airbrush or gradient tool. But I find this, it gives you a lot of options really quickly. Just having that nice flat graphic shadow layer that you can kind of rework as you go, but it kind of gives you a nice quick shadow shapes to work with. So yeah, just real quick, just wanted to show you guys that.
Yeah, the color of your shadow too definitely changes the feeling of the atmosphere also. Like, especially if he's on like a alien planet, like the fact that you just like put like that pink shadow on there, like totally gave it like a totally different vibe.
and that's the thing too, is you can really experiment, because you might be one of those people that like are constantly doing the same types of shadows or lighting or whatever, and this can like really help kind of break that up for you. And it's like you said, it's a really quick and easy way to kind of experiment. I mean, you can even duplicate these layers. You could duplicate the entire set and have a completely, you know, separate color set and shadow set that you play with. Okay, so we got these guys. They're amazing. But I do want to move on. Let's see. So we got him. Oh, you should be in there. Where did he go? Oh, okay, I see. There we go. Okay. So bye-bye. So now we've got some of this other stuff going on here.
Oh, those expressions are so great.
So let me pull up, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have him up still so we can have him as a reference here. And I remember somebody was saying, I don't know if somebody was saying like, how do you come up with the anatomy of the body? This is like obviously I'm like working backwards just because I don't need to do a lot of that work. It kind of just happens as I'm sketching. But especially if you're going to be doing turnarounds, I'll just kind of give you a quick, if you already have your pose that you really like, you can kind of reverse engineer it into a turnaround. So you're going to have, and then it's good to kind of make these guidelines, you know, that you're going to have, they're going to help you kind of match up these points that are really important, you know, maybe like his belt line, the chin line, nose. And this is, you know, when I did the body, obviously I try to do as much freehand as I can, just because sometimes having too many guidelines will kind of start to restrict the rhythm and flow. And then, yeah, it might be like perfectly right, but it might not look right, which can happen. So you just want to, you do want to use your intuition a little bit. So let's see, let's put those down here. Okay, so you got some like basic guidelines, and then yeah, you can go in with, let's use that sketch again, sketch brush. And you're just kind of using those and just kind of looking at how this head structure would be. And I would say this part and getting good at this takes a lot of work.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Just studying, you know, I would say just study a ton of other illustrators and character designers. See how many videos you can see of how they work. Try to absorb as much as you can. Because it's just not, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And if you want, you know, one thing I really learned trying to get jobs doing this is they only want to hire somebody who's day one ready. So if you're not day one ready, it used to be where, like, I mean, if you're still in school, you can get those internships. They're much more likely to train you or kind of introduce you a little bit slower. But if you're a freelancer, independent contractor, you have to be day one ready.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times you get projects where they're like, well, we've got 3 days. So,
3 days,
know, or you have 24 hours, or you have a week, you know, you usually get these pretty tight deadlines. I mean, with the amusement park stuff, that was like light speed.
Wow.
And it's because I remember one time it was like, you know, showing a client in China, they're flying to China. They need to do, you know, a change on this sketch, or they need like a whole new sketch in a couple, you know, in like 4 or 5 hours because the time change, and they're about to introduce it to the client. So you just, you have to get really good. You have to get to a place where you're like, okay, yeah, I can do that. It's going to suck, but I can do it. You don't want to be like, how does a nose turn? You know, it's like, you kind of already, you need to make all of those decisions. You need to know how to make those decisions, and you need to have that, like that knowledge already. But yeah, so we're going to kind of just got his head generally. And then I would say with most anatomical builds is that the rib cage is a really big part of it, and making sure that you're basically just building cylinders and figuring out like what angle they're sitting at. And with the body and the muscular system, even with the skeletal system, almost everything works in like a push-pull, like S curves. And so there's a constant rhythm that's happening, and you can see it. You might not know it, but you'll be noticing it without even realizing it. So kind of just got the shoulders. Let's see. Make sure this mustache is nice and prominent.
Unicorn in chat says this is such a cute character.
Thank you. See, that's good. I'm getting better.
Did it take you a long time to build up your speed as an artist?
I think that's just years. I mean, I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, well, I've been drawing since I was probably like 4 or 5. So 30 years of just drawing relatively consistently. You get to a place where you have muscle memory.
Yeah.
And so your hands just kind of know what to do anyways. And then once you're going to really get good when you don't have to think so much. Like you don't have to think about how these shapes turn and the form turns, and you don't have to think about what the muscular structure is or how the hand's going to look and once you do these things enough and you draw enough hands and you're like, oh, I know how a hand holds a stick because I've drawn it 30, 40 times, or I know how to do a thumbs up or a pointing, or it's just, you've messed it up so many times and fixed it that like you finally start to get a picture in your brain, and your hand actually kind of just learns how to make it.
Just starts to become like second nature, basically.
Yeah, you don't really have to do much to think about it. So I would say that that's, a pretty basic.
I know a lot of artists too that will, like, if they need a hand pose, they'll take a picture of themselves, or they'll sit in front of their webcam like this and
oh my gosh,
take a picture
constantly
of themselves, or like an expression. Like it's always
I
good
do it all the time
to have a mirror at your desk, your drawing desk. You can do an expression in a mirror and draw I know a lot of the classic Disney animators used to do that too.
Yes. And that's actually in our animation classes. Like I said, we were recording on VHS, and doing playback through NTSC, whatever, television. We would also do the same thing. It's like, if you don't know what it looks like, just take a picture of yourself. Oh my God, for the comic book, I'm doing that. I'm like, I play like 6 different characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great example, actually, since you just said that. I wanted to, so we've got our body. I was going to go up to these expressions that we have up here. And that's kind of like a great segue into us making another one based off of an expression that I'm going to just do. So we don't really have like an angry expression here. So I can do that. And I'm going to go ahead and just take, I've got my photo booth out right now. So I'm just going to take a photo of myself doing expressions. So it might get weird for a second here. Let's see. Maybe like a lip. Perfect. So now
I'm sure chat got a lot of great screenshots from that.
Yeah. So now I've got an expression that this is, let's see, we will open up in Photoshop. Just throw it in here. This little reference. Okay. And then I've been kind of using, let's see, been using this guy as my base form, because I had this guy, right? That was from the original drawing. And so I went ahead and did just a front facing. So I have, because I've already got the 3/4 view. And so this kind of gives me a nice, like, okay, what's he look straight on?
Right.
Which is really, if you're going to do expressions, you need a straight on view. I could have a profile view too, but I can kind of figure out what that's going to look like in my head. So I'm not going to do that right this second, but. So I'm just going to select that with my lasso. Command J is a really quick layer duplication or selection duplication.
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, Command J. Yeah, that's
nice.
A really good one. And we're just going to reduce that capacity. opacity. Okay, let's rotate it a little bit. So now I'm just going to freestyle this and see if I can come up with an expression that is close to what I'm doing, but also maintaining my character's likeness. So we've got the mouth. This mouth is going to be kind of coming up like this. And it's like you said with the mustache. That mustache is going to kind of play an important part.
Almost like eyebrows.
Exactly. Eyebrows for your mouth, for your lips.
Yes.
Yeah. Lip eyebrows.
Lip brows.
Lip brows. Yes. So since he's kind of going, he's kind of got this like snarl, right? So this can kind of come up. And what's going to happen too, probably, is that nose is probably going to go up too. You might even get a little snarl. And this, you don't have to go like about it this way. I mean, for me, that the mouth is kind of this point where I think a lot of the action is coming in right here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
got about 9 minutes until the artist spotlight.
Okay. And then we're going to look at, okay, how can we really make him upset? Let's see. Do those eyebrows. I think this one, and then you can kind of see here, there's like a curve. So we're just going to go ahead and draw that curve out. And this one's much more
scrunchy.
Yeah, scrunchy. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, that's the new job of the host as a ventriloquist. I'm going to be moving my lips. You will be speaking for me. So yeah, so we've got something that actually is probably going to be more like an angle here. So the cheekbones are still going to be relatively in the same place. The ears, that's not going to change too much. You could maybe angle the ear down or something if you wanted to. And maybe the left side of that face is going to be stretched just a little more to the side here. And then if we want, we can maybe put some eyeballs. Doesn't look so friendly anymore.
Yeah. Zubair in chat says, awesome lip brows.
Yes,
good
thank
job.
you. Woohoo! And let's see. So this is going to come over here, and maybe maybe we want to continue that kind of movement that's happening here. So there you go.
That's so cool.
Actually, you know what? This is going to be less. And then let's see. we've got, if we wanted to, we can include that monocle.
Oh yeah. Can't forget the
Yeah.
monocle.
Can't forget the monocle. Maybe it's like really tucked in there. Maybe that's how it is. Probably could be better, but we'll take it. I think I like that. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's one way of kind of using your own face. My face looks nothing like this character, but trying to figure out what aspects of my muscle structure are creating the expression. And like, okay, my brow line, and then obviously my mouth, and then the way that my cheeks are scrunching or stretching, the push and pull of either side. So I just take those and just apply that to my structure. So, and it's great because you don't need any reference other than yourself.
Yeah.
So, and it's true. This is what animators have been doing and designers forever. I'm sure at some point, even beyond animation and painting, it's like you have a mirror, you've got your reference. So cool. So yeah, that's a pretty good one. I think that went pretty well.
Did you use a photo of yourself for all of these expressions, or are you just practiced enough to be able to do it without a photo every single time?
Yeah, I didn't use a photo for any of these. I kind of have like a general idea of expressions that I've done in the past. But I think a lot of the times for like really subtle stuff, even if I have reference, or it's like I'll do my own reference to kind of see. It's almost like to see what I'm doing or like what I would naturally do to cause that emotion, or like what it looks like on my face, or like actually feel like what I'm moving. So, okay. So we got some expressions kind of, and you can build out this head. How much time do we got?
About 3 minutes until the outer spotlight.
Okay. And then we got like 10, 15 minutes afterwards?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. But yeah, real quick with the head layout, again, you could do the same thing. And it's basically what you do with turnarounds and everything. It just makes them really like major point guidelines. And then, it's kind of hard. You kind of just have to turn it in your head. Like sculpting, 3D models, figure drawing, all that stuff's really going to help you figure that out. So yeah, I think we'll get into some. When we come back, we'll do a few little like poses.
Sweet. Sounds good. All right, you guys. Well, I think we could start transitioning over to the artist spotlight if you are ready for that, Chris.
Yeah, let me save it.
Yes, good idea. And everyone, if you are working digitally, please don't forget to save your work. Also, drink some water, stretch your wrists, all that jazz. And we will swap over to the artist spotlight real quick here.
Okay.
All right, so our artist that we are spotlighting today is, please, I don't know how to pronounce this name, but I'm going to try Clinique Hilsaka, possibly. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced it, but I did my best, I promise. Their work is so lovely. I was looking at their portfolio earlier. I personally really love the consistency of the color palette. Like that is my immediate first initial reaction to their portfolio, and their character designs are just so lovely texture. If there's any pieces that just like jump out to you, Chris, we can click on those and just kind of dive in and check them out in detail.
Yeah, let's see. I thought there was a few that this piece I really love. I just really love the composition of this piece.
Oh yeah.
It's you kind of got this great like repetition of form here, where you've got this big adorable sea monster of some sort. And that shape is replicated again in the town, and then again in the foreground. So you have a foreground, middle ground, and a background that are all replicating each other, which isn't the easiest thing to do to make look good. But she's got all these nice elements balancing it on the left-hand side here. Great black shapes, kind of weighing it down. But like you said, the texture, the consistency with line quality, the color palette is just very warm and inviting. I mean, this stuff's straight out of children's books. I mean, it's amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I really love that piece. Let's see. This is also great. Just taking, like I was saying before, it's really make sure that you're doing traditional as well. It's really important to just understand how color works and how brushes work. And I think there is just something visually that people connect to with traditional textures. But yeah, I mean, I'm assuming this looks like gouache that she's working with. Oh no, it might be watercolor.
It might be watercolor.
I think it's watercolor actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought gouache, but yeah, I think it is watercolor. Really, really beautiful. These are just fun.
Also really beautiful photography too, as well.
Yes. And I think that goes with her website as well. Or is this on Behance, I believe, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the way that she laid everything out, I think like you were saying, you can really see the consistency in the color schemes. Is really beautiful. Oh, these are cool. I was like, that almost looks like gold leaf or something.
Oh yeah, it might be. Maybe
it's like a gold, like probably a gold paint, but
it's like coasters or something. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, these are really pretty. But yeah, great forms. There's a lot of really simplified structures with really beautiful line work.
Yeah, I was actually going to
stroke.
Suggest the bear character there because he's so plump. He has so much character just in his simple shapes, the very round belly and the round limbs and just arms, and this little simple illustration just shows so much story behind it with the little bunnies watching him play and stuff. So much texture into, yeah, just love like all the pencil lines and stuff making the texture of the fur. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, because I mean, if you didn't have all this really great line work informing the form, I mean, it'd be a very flat piece. But because there's a lot of these textures kind of flattening the piece, making it very interesting. But having this in the foreground really pops it. It's really beautiful. It almost could be too busy, but the way that she uses her color and the sensitivity of the line work makes it work really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there any other one that you wanted to look at?
I also really love on the same row of the bear character on the very right, there's a wolf character. Yes. That one is really beautiful. And I really love the scale of this one just by adding that simple little fence in the foreground that gives us an idea of scale compared to humans. And I feel like scale is just so important for illustration too. Like without that fence, you wouldn't, I mean, of course you have the mountains for scale too, but it wouldn't be as apparent as when they have that fence.
Yeah. Those could be rocks, with snow on them and like little bushes, but yeah, it completely changes, the storyline for this. And it seems like it might be a reoccurring theme of these like small, adorable animals that are actually really grand in size.
I also love how the shape of the tail is kind of being pinched to the side around the mountain. That's just such a cute little shape right there. And yeah, he's sleeping. Very, very adorable.
Yeah, great choice of textured brushes. Yeah, there's so many good ones. And you can just see here, I'll just use this one because there is no color.
Mm-hmm.
These are, look at these value studies.
Yeah.
Where, you know, if you make a grayscale of anything that you're painting, you're going to see right away what's working and what's not working. And this is just a great example that she really has a great handle on her value scale, and making sure she's really using everything from white to black.
Yeah, all of these watercolor textures are so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, look at the balance on this one.
Yeah.
Really...
Your eye immediately gets drawn to the little ghost character right there because of the contrast.
Right, and you've got all this detail leading you right down into this, you know, you're basically the highest contrast area is this little black circle. That's perfect, just peeking out. Yeah, I mean, this is a great example of somebody who's very much a graphic, is like a great graphic illustrator.
Yeah.
Where he is really pulling in all these beautiful flat graphic elements and integrating it into this beautiful 3D environment. These are great.
Oh, the little sheep is adorable.
Yeah.
I also love...
just see... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love how she combines the cute characters along with like darker elements like skulls and ghosts and things like that. I always enjoy artwork that juxtaposition.
Yeah. The little, it's like it's like probably like the crazy like ram goat head, you know, satanic. Just got a loofah and a bubble bath.
Yeah,
no
he's just
deal.
chilling.
But also a great example too of how many different how many mark making, you know, different ways you can make marks. And using that to separate different forms and shapes and backgrounds. It's really important as an illustrator to really learn just how many different ways you can represent something. Yeah, these are so cool. Yeah, these are great. Cool.
I wanted to look at one more. It's at the top row on the right.
This one?
Very top row. Yeah, the buildings on
with
this
the houses.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so much detail in this illustration. I was looking at it earlier.
Oh wow, yeah.
Oh wow, so much detail. Just like all of the shingles and everything. The little trees in the background on the mountain. Oh my goodness, multiple characters. There's just so much story going on in this picture. And the architecture is just really adorable as well. They did a really good.
And I like, the way she plays with perspective. It's like she's not so focused on it being completely accurate, but really telling the story and making sure all of those story elements are in there. That's hard to do. And she does a really great job. And also, like you said, there's so much in there and it doesn't feel busy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's using the foreground elements, making sure that the middle ground and where the focus is where all your saturation is, and making sure to using those cooler tones, and desaturating the backgrounds. But
that's true. Yeah, she did a really good job separating the foreground from the background there. Just like it almost has just like a nice haze over it, so it's there, but it's not the main focus.
Right. Because the further it goes with atmospheric perspective, the whiter and bluer it gets. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So cool. This is obviously part of a book.
Oh, neat. Very pretty.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, you guys. Yeah, don't forget to check out Clinique's work on Behance. Go give them a follow and stuff like that on Behance and their other socials as well. And we will go ahead and get back into doing some poses with our little alien biologist.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back here. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So we can probably get rid of some of that. I thought I had another. Sorry about that. Oh yeah. Okay. So now that we've got his little body here, that's just going to be a great. Again, I'll just do the Command J. can bring him over. Just going to kind of shrink him down. So I kind of have like one that's a little bit more user-friendly size. This is one that I was already kind of working on that I liked. Just felt like he was almost cradling something in his hands.
Oh yeah, maybe like a little egg or something.
Yeah, it's almost like floating.
Mm-hmm.
He had kind of discovered this. And I think when you're developing this stuff for a portfolio or a project, it's like you're becoming the actor, right? You're becoming the character. You're trying to think of things that they would do or how they would react to situations. So since he's a wildlife biologist, he's obviously going to be studying a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
I did want to see if I could. I just love this idea of. I don't even know if it'll work, but. I want to see if I can try to find a way to. Like he's hiding in his little cloak.
That big old nose sticking out.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Let's see. Probably. Yeah, and the mustache, right?
Yeah, the mustache breaking the border there. Yeah.
It'd probably be really hunched. Little arms in there.
This is a great example of drawing through too. I know a lot of artists, especially if they're new to getting into art. I know some artists that had never heard of what drawing through is actually. So maybe you could give a quick definition of that.
So when you're drawing, it's really, if you're breaking the rhythm of your line, it's going to make it really hard to reconnect that rhythm. And so when you're drawing through and it's like, okay, well, I want his body, you're kind of making that body. You're not worrying about it cutting in front of that arm. Or if like you really want like a rhythm or a shape. So like the cape's a good example. It's like, I'm not worrying about it cutting in front of everything. I'm most worried about the rhythm of this cape. And since you draw it through like that, it's gonna be a much better line. Where if I was to, or like let's say for the legs, for example, instead of, let's say you don't do that part, right? You've got the body. Instead of having this all drawn through, I'm like trying to imagine it maybe, and then I've got a leg and I'm just trying to put it together without looking at it or try, you want to make sure you're not worried about that. You want to just draw the leg. You want to draw that rhythm so that when the drawing is going to come out much better, drawing through the lines, drawing through the rhythm, making sure that the shape is the most important thing. Because it's easier to figure stuff out that way. And you can always go back and just erase away. So it's like I've built he's got like a body in here, right? He's got his little feet. He's definitely hiding in here. But eventually if you want, you can just get rid of that. And you just got him. And maybe this part is like that, and maybe he's got his little feet.
That's adorable.
And this is him, you know. This is how he watches animals. Not creepy at all. And you can, you know, it's got those things that kind of come out, make like a cool.
Oh, yeah, the little tassels. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you was sitting on. There's some rocks or something. But then maybe, you know, you kind of represent that somehow.
His camouflage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How you kind of play that into it. Kind of got those ideas of, but yeah, I would, you know, when you're doing stuff like this and you're exploring your character, don't take too much time on it. Really make sure that the idea is coming out, and you want that action to happen. You want the feeling more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be super accurate until, you know, if you want to develop it, then that's when you really want to kind of like dig in. But don't do too much at first, because then you're going to find yourself getting caught and, you know, not, again, it happens all the time. It's like hours later and I'm like, I didn't get anything done.
Yeah.
Spent too much time. So yeah, that's like his little like stealth mode, right?
Cute.
It's like a little rock. Let's see, he's got his, like, we could do one where he has his laser, right? That I didn't draw yet, but I'm going to. And obviously for a lot of this stuff, if you don't have reference, you can take a picture of yourself doing it. You can have your friend take a picture of you. You can do a selfie in the mirror. You can set it up on a tripod. Tripods are great. iPhone tripods. But yeah, once you start doing more, you're gonna be like, I'm very much like, I am a sketchy guy. Like, people like, do silhouettes, do that. I'm like, I do it out of technique to show people. I rarely do silhouettes. I'm a builder. Like, I don't just see a shape. It's like I have to build the skeleton and kind of like start to see it take shape, you know.
That's really interesting you say that, because I'm pretty sure your last session you showed that technique of silhouetting for the creatures.
Yes, I did. And that was yeah, I usually don't do that. But it's important to show people how to do that, because it is, for some people, it is a great way to not get caught up in trying to figure out this whole body, because it can be really hard sometimes. I mean, it's not easy drawing a figure. Let's see. See, I'm already have it.
Anthony says, I draw through the line all the time. It really helps to get a more accurate shape for your characters. Yes, absolutely, Anthony. Wade says, whenever I look for concept art books, I'm always looking for draw throughs and rough sketches. Yeah, I'm sure it helps to look at professional sketches as well and just kind of see their technique and see how they did it too.
Oh yeah, completely. I feel like these legs. Let's see, maybe it's more of a, it's going to kind of have him bent over, but I'm thinking maybe this is more of like a stand-up job here.
He's confident.
Yeah.
It's like, I've done this a million times. I can do this.
Yeah, of course.
All right, we got about 5 minutes-ish left,
Okay.
5 or 6 minutes.
Okay.
Speed sketching.
Yeah, I'm rolling. Sorry.
We got a deadline, Chris. We got to go.
I know. Can't get to all the things, but yeah, I'll just let you guys know. I'm going to try to, let's see. I'm going to try to do some of these, finish some of these little moments, maybe refine them a little bit. I'm definitely going to finish the color for both poses, and that'll be posted on my Behance profile. I'll post it on my Instagram as well, but definitely check out the Behance profile. I'll post that up there, and probably I'll try to post as much as I can from the process as well. I don't think I really did that last time. So I'll post up the process as well, so you can kind of see where it started and where it ended. So
yeah, I'm really excited to see the final colors too.
Yeah, I did that so much last time that I was like, you know what, I'm going to save that for afterwards, because I kind of already shown that process once. And who knows, maybe I can do a GIF or something.
Yeah.
Of the process. Maybe I can take shots of the my different sets, so different layers being added. So, but yeah, I mean, you kind of all of a sudden you got a character.
Yeah.
You got something. This is, you know, it's exciting. Oops, you've got all these things now. Let's see. Oops. Not that I'm going to be able to make any of them move where I want them to. Let's see. I got these guys. Oops. Oopsies. Don't mind me. Just, oh my gosh. Just trying to make it all nice and set up, but you guys get it.
We saw the process. It's fine.
Yeah, you guys know.
We saw it.
Yeah. So you got this guy. We got the expressions. We've got some of the acting moments there. And then in the end, we've got the final hero poses. So I think we did a pretty darn good job.
Going back to the shadows, I actually had a question. I was wondering, do you typically, depending on the atmosphere, like we were talking about earlier, but do you typically do warm highlights and cool shadows, or do you change it up a lot?
My default is totally warm highlights, cool shadows.
Yeah.
I do change it up. I've been changing it up more, especially just like studying lighting. It has such a huge impact on how your character is viewed. For me, if I'm just doing like a basic design, I always just top light it. And then if I want to keep developing it, I'll do but unless it's like a really dramatic design or something that really calls for it. Otherwise, it's just like, okay, this is like a simple way to really like have like form that in general daylight, this is what's going to look like. And then if I'm going to move it into something or a different environment. But I mean, for him in this situation, like you said, it could be really cool that I switch that up, because he's probably not on Earth.
Right.
So that lighting's probably not going to be your typical sunny day or anything. So yeah, maybe that's something that I do for this, is actually play with the lighting. But yeah, that's usually my default. But that's the comfort that we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Same. I think we all have those comfort zones that we try to stick to.
Yeah, exactly.
Carrie says, it might sound crazy, but I can actually imagine how this character would sound. Amazing job.
Oh,
the voice?
Yes.
That's fun.
I'm curious.
What do you... All right. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you, Carrie, for that comment. Now I'm thinking in my head, I hadn't considered it before about his voice. I love that. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. There you go. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us today and yesterday. If you guys missed part one, don't forget to check that out as well. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. And Chris, where can they find you the most? Behance and Instagram, right?
Yeah, Instagram is _Blackstock. And then you can also Behance, I think it's just, you can just search Chris Blackstock. And then website is theblackstock.com.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much. We had a lot of fun watching this character be developed. And everyone, don't forget to also stick around for the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge hosted by Codi coming up next. And we will see you then. Thanks for
All
hanging
right.
out.
Bye, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Yep.